A big thank you to everyone for joining us for panel Q&A discussion about creative careers. I'm Francesca and I manage the Barnet Cultural Education Partnership, although we excitingly announced our new name and logo that was designed with our youth panel. So we are officially Barnet and Culture for Youth. As you can see, we are on a webinar, which means that you can't see other attendees. You can only see our wonderful panelists, but you can still write questions in the Q&A function and also use the chat box as well. If you do have a question for the panelists, we ask that you put it in the Q&A box just so we can separate what are questions and what's discussion. This session is being recorded. I'd now like to introduce Arfa, who is facilitating the discussion. Arfa is a freelance music and talent director, global entertainment executive and cultural strategist. Arfa has spearheaded an endless array of international platforms, including the management of MTV's first UK Black music channel, MTV Base, and then commissioned to create MTV's 100th channel, MTV Base Africa, leading on all African content for the MTV brand. I'm going to pass over to Arfa now. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Francesca. Francesca, my intro seems like it's very old. No, I'm just saying it seems like it's very old because it feels like such a long time ago. So thank you. Thank you all for joining us today. This is, I guess, my third or fourth time working with Arts Depot, and a lot of our conversations are around how we can engage young people in creative careers. Two of the programs I did with Arts Depot were in a school. And I feel bringing professionals into the school not only opens up the conversation around issues that young people face accessing the industry, but also allows them to ask questions directly or have conversations directly with the people in the industry. So I guess making it easier to navigate through the industry if they choose to join the creative industry. So we have a fantastic lineup of panelists. I think it would be great to go around and for everyone to introduce themselves. So Lesley, please introduce yourself. And you have your mic on.
I do. I'm good at this now. Hello, everybody. My name is Lesley Main. I'm head of the Performing Arts Department at Middlesex University. And I'm also a dancer. That was my career background, just what I did. And still do to a degree. Middlesex is a wonderfully creative place and we're very proud to be part of the Barnet community. And Middlesex has been one of the founding partners of the Cultural Education Partnership. So we've been part of this project from the outset. So very, very happy to be here today.
Thank you, Lesley. Annemarie.
Hi, so I'm hoarse, I should say, first of all, so apologies. My name's Annemarie Lewis Thomas. I am, by trade, I'm a composer and a lyricist and a musical director. And in 2009, I opened the MTA, the Musical Theatre Academy in London, training performers in a 2-year course in musical theatre in stage and screen. So that's my background.
Thank you. Neil. Please tell us about the education part too, please. So start from the beginning from school.
I'll start with my name.
Yes, that would help.
Hello everyone, good evening. I'm Neil Marlowe. I'm the Director of School Improvement within Barnet Education and Learning Service. So basically I work for Barnet Council and it's my responsibility to ensure all of the 130 schools in Barnet are doing a good job. And a good job doesn't just mean doing a good job with great results. It means giving the children and the young people the opportunities that those children deserve right throughout their education. My background is I was a primary school teacher, then became a primary school head teacher in Camden, became a primary school head teacher in Barnet, and then I've worked for Barnet Local Authority for the last 10 years. And I'm passionate about culture in education, I'm passionate about art in education, which is why I'm also on the board for the Cultural Education Partnership, or as it's now called, the Barnet and Culture for Youth. So delighted to be here this evening. I wouldn't call myself I'm in a creative career, but to be a teacher, to be a head teacher, to be working in education, you have to be creative and you have to embrace creativity. So hopefully I can support you in anything you want to know about going into a career of education and how that can help with your creativity.
Thank you. Thank you, Neil. Shanice.
Hi everyone, my name is Shanice, obviously. I'm a youth support worker at Youth Realities, which is a youth-led organisation based in Barnet addressing teenage relationship abuse through creative education and survivor-centred support. I'm also a Royal Central School of Speech and Drama acting graduate. What do? I don't know. I do quite a lot of things, like I guess most actors do. I write. I'm currently in the middle of writing for a series. I'm also writing my own one-woman show, which I hope to perform myself. And as you can imagine, I use a lot of those creative skills and bring them into my youth work at Youth Realities, which I'm sure we'll discuss further a little bit later on. So,
yeah. Do you think play is a really big part of what you do?
100%.
Being connected yourself helps that with young people.
100%. I mean, I'm a big kid. I mean,
everybody in the panel seems like a big kid.
Young people that I work with, they'll probably tell you the same. But 100%, I mean, I'm working with young people. I work part-time, so I work 3 days a week. And you just have to be able to connect with that childish part of yourself to resonate with them, basically. So 100%, it all ties in.
Thank you. Lily. We can't hear you.
Yeah, finding the unmute button. Hi, so my name is Lillian Vavidia. Lillian when I'm naughty, Lily when I'm good. So we'll stick to Lily tonight.
What does your mum call you?
Lillian when I've made her cross. Lillian! And when she's happy with me, it's Lily. So we're gonna have Lily tonight, Lily. So I'm like everybody else here, a jack of all trades, wear many, many hats. I run 2 companies with my sister. One is called Afro Retro, which is a creative fashion brand. And we are making upcycled clothing, jewelry, accessories. And we really drawn out our background, our culture, because we're both Ugandan. I was born in Uganda, she was born in the UK here. So that feeds into pretty much all of our design work. As part of our Afro Retro work, we did a lot of participation projects. And we realized we really enjoy this. So we've now set up another company called Afri Collab, which is solely focusing on the participation projects. And then my third...
Young people?
Pardon?
Is it just participation with young people or for adults?
No, it's for everyone. We've done a variety of projects with our Afro Retro heads. We did projects working with schools as well. We've done projects with families. We've worked with the South Bank, the V&A, the Brighton Museum. So we've worked with adults and children and young people, so everybody. And then my final hat is my academic hat, I should say. I work at the Science Museum and I work in their learning team and I curate their events. So I do sleepovers with the kids. I also do adult lates and I'm working on a new project now where I'm doing content exclusively for young people.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Lily. So I sent round, how many questions were there? 5 questions. And I guess I want you to sit and reminisce, because I think a lot of the conversations we don't necessarily have as professionals are, when I was 11 years old or when I was 5 years old, what did I want to do? And I remember wanting to be an air hostess. Don't ask me why. And then I wanted to work in forensics. Don't ask me what happened there. And then I ended up in the music industry. So I think like my first question will definitely be, how old were you when you realized you were interested in the creative industry? And when did you have that conversation with your parents? Who's going to raise their hand, or shall I pick somebody? Shanice, let's go with Shanice. You were smiling too much, not my fault.
It's like I knew you was going to pick me, that's why. Okay, so when how old was I? So I was about year 9, year 10. So you know when you're at that age where you're in secondary school, when you get to pick your own subject, year 10 and year 11. I've always known I want to do something creative. I've been writing literally ever since I can remember, I guess. I've got so many books. I mean, I was publishing a poetry book when I was like 7 called Up, Up and Away. Yeah, just a fun fact. But yeah.
But did you have somebody encourage you to do that, or is that just something that came naturally?
Well, no. So I wanted to be a teacher first, and I wanted to be a social worker, which obviously my parents were like, yeah, that's fine, that's great, especially to the teacher. Then when I wanted to be an actor, they were like, oh, you know how
I have.
my mom's watching right now, actually, which is funny. Hi, Mom. Yeah. But yeah, like when I wanted to be an actor, it was a complete different story. It was just a bit more like, you know, they weren't harsh on me in a sense where like, you can't do that. It wasn't like that. It was just like trying to gently guide me, you know, okay, this is a bit of fun, time to get a proper job, things like that. But I'm really stubborn, and I'm also very strong-willed. And the more you tell me I can't do something, the more I'm probably going to try and do it. And that's how I was when I was a young person.
Is it like a constant back and forth and like this tug of war kind of situation?
Yeah, and I understood from a young age. I understood that the reason why wasn't because they didn't like me or they didn't want me to do anything that I wanted to do. It was more of a sense of, I just feel like this is more secure over here rather than you aiming for that. But I am just like, yo, I don't know. I've always been a person that's like, I'm just going to do what I want to do, really. So I say from the age 14, year 9 is probably when I decided that, yeah, I want to do acting. Yeah.
Denise, can I ask, what was the school's view? Were you at a school in Barnet, by the way?
No, actually, I work in Barnet, but I live in London. I live in Brockley.
All right. So what was the school's view when you said at the age of 14 that you wanted to go become an actress?
Well, I had a really good drama teacher. Her name was Miss Williams. She was really good. And honestly, out of all the subjects I did, like I guess like in English, I was really good academically. I was good at things, but nothing was I just like to have fun. And acting is just so fun. It's the only subject you can do where you can be a big kid and get, you know, marks for it.
You can actually be yourself.
You can be yourself, and you can be so many other people, and you learn so much about pretty much every other career there is out there through acting. You know, if you're doing a show and you have to be a doctor, even in secondary school level, if you have to be a doctor in that show, you have to research what it is to be a doctor. And I found that technique into learning about the world more fun than just, hey, you go, you have to learn this. This is what your exam's going to be on. It just felt a bit like, you know, where's the freedom?
So at what point did you get support from your parents? Because I feel like it's a really important part of this conversation. This is a really important part of the conversation.
Yeah.
At what point did you sit down with your mum and say, actually, Mum, I'm doing this and I'm going to make this a success, but I need your support? Did that conversation ever take place?
Yeah, it did take place. So I'd say my dad definitely was more on board before my mum. I'd say after secondary school, which it wasn't a big deal doing it in secondary school. Then I went to my first college and did it in A-level. It's a bit of a worry for my parents. Then it's like, yeah, I'm actually going to do a BTEC and do more performing arts. And at that point was a bit like, okay, you're getting old now, especially because I went to 2 colleges. So I did 4 years.
How old were you when you were getting old? Because you don't look like a day over 21.
This is like when I was 18.
Okay.
When I was 18, it was like, yeah, you're getting old. You should probably start thinking of some other choices. You know, what happened to you wanting to be a teacher? What happened to you wanting to, you know, like be a social worker, all those kind of things. And I guess the part where they started to see how serious I was taking it was when I went to Lucian College. I did a BTEC, performing arts, and I performed there. I played Nurse Ratchet from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Actually, no, wait. Before I did that, I played Mary in Jesus Christ Superstar. Yeah. And then my mum came. My dad couldn't make it, but it was recorded. And that's when they just was like, you know, she's actually kind of good.
Were there tears at the end of it?
Pardon?
Were there tears at the end of it after they saw it?
My dad actually, like, I don't know if he's gonna mind me saying this, but my dad cried like when he watched it. My dad doesn't cry easy at all. So that touched me a bit, and I could tell that he was like, you know, she's actually wants to do this. But it wasn't until I went to drama school where my mum really started to settle into the idea of it. But I can be honest with you and say, even to this day, I mean, I'm 28 now, and my mum's still not 100% on board. But that's not. But it's not.
We're trying to convince you today.
But my mum's, yeah, like she's still. My dad is 100% like, I want you to be an actor. I want you to, like, you know. But my mum is not 100% on board, only because of the other things that she feels might come along with it. You know, the things you hear in news and stuff like that. But for the most part, she knows it makes me happy, and she's happy that I'm happy, and that's about it. So yeah.
Thank you, Mum. Well, I'm not thanking you, I'm thanking Mum instead. Thank you, Shanice. Right, who am I picking on next? I think Neil. Let's come to you, Neil.
Yeah, Shanice, can I just say that you may be a good actor and a good writer, but with the teaching profession has lost you from the teaching profession. If you ever feel like going into teaching, have a word with me, because I think you'd be a great teacher as well, Shanice. And you can still, you can still be very creative.
Already.
I've done like teaching a little bit, but you know.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. Because I think often people think that going into teaching is teaching, or you're going to go into a creative career, or teaching. You know, you said social worker teaching, or should I do a creative career? You can be really creative in teaching. I never wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to go into music. I was playing the guitar and singing when I was at secondary school. I had some bands at secondary school. I just wanted to get into the music business. I wrote to every recording studio going. I wrote to every TV studio going, saying, just give me a job as a T-boy. I don't care, just anything to get into the business. And I just kept getting the same letters back saying, sorry, we haven't got any availability, but we'll keep you on file.
How old were you when you were writing these letters?
This is when I was leaving school. So before I went to university, I had a place at Warwick to do politics at university. And then I suddenly thought, why am I doing this? I don't really want to go to university to do politics. I want to go into a creative area. I wanted to go into music, go into television, but it just the knockback after knockback of just getting the letters saying, sorry, we'll keep you on file. We'll get in touch if we ever get a vacancy for you. I'm still waiting by the way, for those places to get in touch with me.
But it's quite tough when you're in that position, because sometimes what you need is 1 day or 1 hour somewhere in the presence of people who work in the industry, and sometimes that's enough. You don't need anything else. And I don't think people in the industry understand the importance of that.
Exactly, yeah. But I was getting knockback after knockback, and then in fact it was my dad who said to me, you know, Neil, you're great with children. You know, you're great with nieces, nephews. You can be creative as a teacher. Why don't you look at being a teacher? And I thought, well, I'll have a go. You know, I'll see what that's like. It was then by the end of the summer holidays, and so universities were starting. So I went to Clearing. Clearing had one place in London that still had a place to start a BEd, Bachelor of Education. I then went along for an interview, and I started the following day. So within deciding to be a teacher, I was then starting on the training 2 days later, and I must say I've never looked back with regards to that. It wasn't saying goodbye to my desire to be in a creative industry. I felt that I've been able to use that creativity.
Other ways to, I guess, to be creative.
Completely. I mean, I wanted to go into primary teaching, but that's what I felt was that I was more in tune with primary age rather than secondary age. But even I just remember on teaching practice when I was at college doing my teaching practice, I got involved in the Joseph and his Technicolor Dreamcoat play that Year 6 were putting on, and thought, I was playing my guitar in it. I was teaching the children the songs. I was getting them to act certain scenes. You know, right from even before I became a teacher, I thought, well, actually, no, this is what's going to really make teaching exciting for me. So I then became a teacher and just carried that on. I just carried on. When I was a teacher, I was the one who would organise the concerts, organise the shows. I used to love doing drama with my class at school. And in fact, then that
played so many different roles, even within that space. Did you recognise it at the time?
No, I didn't actually. No, I was just doing what I was interested in. You know, I was interested in wanting to teach, but I was also interested in supporting the children, the young people, in them being creative. And you know, I started teaching them the guitar. I started doing the choir with my schools, and then, as I say, the concerts. And when I became a head teacher, I still wanted to make sure I continued with that. I wanted to run a school where the children went away at the end of the day, or at the end of the year, or the end of Year 6, thinking, I remember that time I stood on the stage and sang a solo, or I played my violin to the whole hall full of people. You know, those are the things that make a huge difference to young people, and it gives them the confidence to succeed and to thrive. And if I could send away an 11-year-old child from my school into secondary school who had that love of learning and that love of the creative arts and that love of, actually, there will be certain things you're going to be good at, and there'll be other things you're not so good at. But if you work hard, you can get good at all of those other things. But there will be opportunities for you through education to be able to develop those areas that you really want to develop. And that's why now I'm in it.
Or supporting them to build the confidence to be
exactly, and the confidence, and that has a real knock-on effect on their results. You know, that the best schools aren't the ones that just do English, maths and science and just do all, you know, hot housing the children into all of those academic subjects. It's the ones that have a broad and balanced curriculum, so that the children are loving coming into the school every day. You know, those are the things that make the difference.
Dreading coming in every morning. Oh my God, not this today.
Really?
I can see some smiles because I imagine everybody has felt like that at some point. But you know something, I realized that for me personally, there's this one teacher, her name was Miss Bernard, and in February, maybe in February, I sent my primary school an email saying, I'm trying to find this teacher, where can I find her? And everyone was like, she's probably not even alive, but for me, she was that one person who loved everyone, but her presence was just so her as a person, her energy was so powerful that some people just wanted to be around her every day. So she was that one person that everyone wanted to see all the time. So I think sometimes having that one teacher that really believes in you or cares for you like that.
Completely, yeah, and teachers can transform lives, you know, and they can ruin lives as well. You know, if you happen to have a really bad teacher in a subject, then you can really be put off that subject, and it could be a subject that you would have otherwise been really good at and have really enjoyed. But you know, and that's the power of a teacher, and that's why it's really important that every school is a really good school, a good or outstanding school, and that every teacher in the school is giving the children what they deserve. And that's why I'm in the role that I am now, to try and ensure that the schools in Barnet are doing that.
We're going to come back to what you're doing, because I feel like you just connect the dots across the board for us. But can I move on to Annemarie? And thank Neil. I wasn't finished with you yet. I wanted to say thank you.
Okay. I'm not going anywhere.
Thank you. But I'm going to come back to you, Annemarie. Annemarie, please do share. How old were you?
Well, I thought about this question quite a lot because I don't know the answer. I've never not done it. So I consider myself a musician first and foremost, and I've always done it. There was a piano in my house, and I always played it. My dad plays it really badly, really badly. So I just
joining us today.
No, I wouldn't, because I'll be joining Shanice's gang in a little while about people thinking that he shouldn't be doing it for a career. But so it's his fault he had a piano. But and to give some context, I'm from Wales. I'm from and social context. I'm from a council estate in Wales where people don't normally even have a piano. So we just kind of had one. So it's a bit of a novelty. And then I just kept playing it. And then they sort of said I should go and have lessons because I kept playing it, and that was a bad thing, and I should have learned properly. And so it's just kind of always been there. And in Wales, back then anyway, in Wales, the culture is so pro music. Like it's not just it's not just to say, you know, there's the thing about being born in Wales is not to have a silver spoon in your mouth, but to have music in your soul. And it genuinely was. I don't know whether it still is down there, but it's kind of really normal to play and to sing and to just do things. So I literally always did it. And then I think I've always been a bit stupid. I'm not very good at school, not very I don't consider myself particularly academic.
Why would you use the word stupid?
Because I think it sort of sticks with you, doesn't it? If you're not academically brilliant or, you know, sufficiently good.
At something else.
Say again, sorry.
You're brilliant at something else.
Oh, it's like I'm well okay with it now. I think I guess because I'm trying to talk about it from when I was little. Yeah. So I kind of thought, I thought I couldn't do anything else, so I should stick with this because it was kind of okay. And then I guess I was fearless and stupid because then I just kept doing more and more things. And there was quite a pivotal point when all the teachers were going on strike. Again, back in the days when unions were allowed to let teachers do that. And it meant that our school play was cancelled, our school musical was cancelled. And I was only to just hit the sixth form. And I decided that, you know, myself and my friends should do that play. And it was Godspell. And I've never MD'd anything then, but I just thought, well, of course we should do it. And I think it's the bravery of youth, isn't it? Because you don't really know what that means. So, and I did. And we sort of found out how to get the rights to it. And then we just put it on and we rehearsed it and got quite a lot of local publicity of, you know, the kids are taking over the school. But I don't really think any of us knew what we were doing, but we just thought it'd be okay. And then I just kept doing it and applied to go to college. And and it ended up at Middlesex doing the BAPA course. But I never made
leave Wales. Was that something that went through your head? I actually want to leave where I live.
Oh my God, yes. I mean, literally, you know, probably from the age of 6. Yeah. Because everything that you love about Wales is also everything you hate about Wales. But you don't say that once you've left Wales, then you just love Wales. But it's that kind of, it's so claustrophobic. And I think, you know, I knew that I wanted to work in theatre, but I didn't really know what I could do. I remember my mum had saved up to take me for my 14th birthday up to the West End. And we used to talk about this for many years later. Like, she literally saved up because my parents didn't have very much money. And that was the big treat. And I think we did 3 West End shows. So God knows how she managed to afford it. I think she was like throwing money away from my dad. But we went up, and it kind of cemented what I wanted to do, but I still didn't understand what I wanted to do. But I knew that was where I needed to be. Yeah, and then in terms of sort of when I told my parents, I never did not say it, if that makes sense. That was always known what I was going to do. And my mum, who is no longer with us, but was an amazing woman for somebody of her own admission, was kind of, you know, left school at 14, just did a really regular sort of jobs. She just always said that everybody could do anything. And way ahead of her time, I think, emotionally intelligent, and just kept saying nobody should stop you. And even though she didn't understand it, she just kept saying you should do it. And then conversely, I had my dad just saying get a proper job. Just get a proper job, go to a proper college. You need to do this.
When you ask parents what a proper job means, I still find they don't understand what a proper job really looks like in 2020.
Every job I've done, you know, I've had a very lovely sort of 30-year career, but every time I've gone to do a show, my dad has literally said, and is this going to be a permanent job? So it's still there. And then I think I was quite...
Do you know what I do? Would he know what you do?
Well, I mean, I've told him several times. He's kind of... I think he likes the story of it, so he likes telling other people what I do, but only if, you know, quite sadly. Yeah, if I've worked with somebody that he considers famous, then he's all over it. I mean, he's got the programme ready to show everybody. So he is converse, like I think all parents, you know, they are very, very proud of us. They don't necessarily say it. It's not in his vocabulary to say it, unless I kind of get a little bit narked with him. But he has got, you know, like a pile of programs, and he's got some shows that I've published, and he's got it all there, but he wouldn't say anything to me. But I think as well, I think for him it's got, well, I know actually, because he named this, because Welsh were quite blunt, also a real disappointment to him, because back in the day, Middlesex Uni was Middlesex Poly, which it was a poor choice to go to a poly over a uni. So it was a big disappointment that I didn't even go to a uni. It was like a poly. It wasn't even a proper one. It was a Mickey Mouse course. But I've always, I've not understood it, but I've always known what I was going to do. But I would say I have a cousin, and I spoke about this the other day to somebody. I have a cousin who, at the same age as me, sort of said that they wanted to work in theatre. And I remember really distinctly, so, you know, when I was about 12, 13, their parent, my aunt, sort of telling them to shut up, and that was the most ridiculous thing that anybody could do. And, you know, they didn't go into it. But I do think that thing of, you know, like Neil's talking about the teachers, and we're all talking about parents, I suppose. But it's surprising, and I don't know whether this cousin would have turned out to be the best actor in the world, or whether they were being crap and they would have finished really quite quickly. But I do know that they didn't get the opportunity, whereas having at least one pet...
Or guidance makes all the difference.
Yeah, I think so. And just having one person saying, well, do it. Like, you know, I think that's... You can't undervalue what that one person means. And if you've got more than one person, then, you know, you're really lucky. But yes, so that's my background.
Thank you, Annemarie. Lesley.
I think, I mean, like Annemarie, I went to Middlesex Poly, and proud of it at the time. It was a fantastic course. But before then, I mean, I knew probably about 12, 13 that I had to dance, and it wasn't, it was just I'd done loads of sport at school and loads of music, orchestra, choir, all that stuff. But there was just something about dance that drew me. And we, again, a school teacher, we had a extracurricular modern dance group at school. Mrs. Walton, she was fantastic, and she took us all over the place and created all these dances for us to do all over the place. And I also started going to ballet, and it happened to be the same ballet school as Michael Clark. And he just left to go to the Royal Ballet School, which is a bit annoying. But I hated going there because all the girls had been going since they were 5, and I was like a football player in the midst of this ballet class. But I couldn't not
Did you
go.
make any friends?
Hmm?
Did you make any friends?
No, and I remember them all today, the way they looked at me when I came in the first few lessons. And I thought, I just so uncomfortable being there but I had to be there because I had to learn ballet, because I had to be a dancer. So I would go to these classes, and then I'd go to practice every day at school by myself in the gym, 8 o'clock every single day, because I just had to do it. And it was the most wonderful career. And I was lucky. I had supportive parents. My dad was a real theatre buff. In fact, he lived in Barnet for a year before he married my mum, and he was just working at the Bank of India, and he just went to the theatre all the time, concerts, plays, dance, ballet. So he was the kind of the theatrical spirit in our family, and so I had their support from them. It took me a while to ask them, because I wasn't quite sure how to broach it and what to do. So I wrote to Rhomberg and said I wanted to audition for the school. And they sent me back a really nice letter of advice. And I think that was the spur, apart from Mrs. Walton at school, this letter from Rhomberg saying, if you do this for the next 2 years, I was 14 or something, then we'd love to see you for an audition. And so I did. And I never auditioned for Rhomberg, but I auditioned for other lads. I went to Laban in the end, and then that didn't work. And I went to Middlesex, which was just the best thing for me. But I think, if you know what you want to do and you have that support at home, but also at school, it makes a huge difference. And I lived at school, right? I mean, in secondary school, because of all that extracurricular, the music and the dance and the sport, and it was a real outlet for me. Because again, I wasn't that academic, but I've got a PhD now, and I've got a PhD because I'm a director. I'm a director, and I wanted to direct. And the only reason I did the PhD was so I could do loads of directing and a little bit of writing. And I ended up doing loads of writing and really, really enjoying it.
It's yourself that makes the difference then, because often people tell us that we're not capable of doing something, we're not good at something. And when you're hearing that constantly, you end up believing it, not necessarily because you believe it yourself, it's because others or people around you or the environment that you're in or the home that you're growing up in or the people that you who love you don't understand your needs or understand what it is that you need.
Yeah, but that's again, just having that support at home allowed me to do it, allowed me to sort of understand where I needed to be. And it certainly wasn't like Annemarie. I ran down the motorway when I was 17 just to get to Laban, just to have the I felt like it. And London, I mean, at the time, London was fantastic. I mean, I used to, it was the days when, I mean, I'm a bit of a dinosaur now, but you could sneak into theatres. And I grew up in Aberdeen, and Scottish Ballet were our company. And I used to be able to sneak into the theatre and watch their rehearsals when I was little, when I was a teenager. And then they invited me to come to watch class properly. And that was just, oh my God, these ballet dancers are taking me out for lunch because I just loved them so much. And that was so kind. The kindness, I think the kindness in our profession, in our industry actually, has always been there. And you have the person who befriended me was the prima ballerina of the company, because I wrote her a letter and she took me out to lunch. She gave me her point shoes. She took me to class. I mean, that you never forget that.
Do you think it's because you were proactive?
Yeah.
You wanted to go out and build relationships?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was really shy.
That's part of the industry, I think. These conversations, people tell you to go network. People tell you that you should build relationships, but no one ever tells you how you need to do that.
Yeah.
Or who
it's
you
really
need to
hard.
build. So I would love to come back and ask you about. Thank you, Lesley, for sharing. Lily, can we hear about you, please?
Sure. I feel like I resonate the most with Annemarie. Like for me, I always knew it. It wasn't anything new. So I was really lucky that from a really young age, maybe like the age of 7, we had a neighbor, because I lived in a council estate, good friends of my mum, and she was really creative and did a lot of artwork. So she saw my interest in drawing and visual imagery. And then once a week, every single week, 52 weeks of the year, she gave me a 1.5 hour art class. And we just did stuff with pencils and pens and paper. And when I look at that artwork now, I'm like, oh my gosh, what is that? You know, only things that you could ever put on the fridge, really. But the passion that she put in me and the confidence that she put in me, it was just amazing. And she just really helped me to grow. So by the time I got to secondary school and we're like doing our GCSEs, it was a bit like what Annemarie, I just did it. It wasn't even like a conscious choice. And then I was also lucky that because she was incredibly creative and talked to my mum a lot, when I said I was going to, these are my GCSEs, the way I want to pick, my mum didn't even question it. It was more like, okay, off you go. Have a good time. How can I help you? So for me, it was like, I always kind of like lived it, breathed it, knew it. But I think where I did struggle, where I could have done with additional support, would been more from my actual tutors, because I knew what I wanted to do and I knew where I wanted to get to. I just needed help in figuring out that pathway. So it's the networking, it's meeting the right people, like enjoying the drawing, but how am I going to make money out of that? Because that is important when you're 14. How am I going to make some money? You know, let's be serious. So all of those
knew themselves.
Pardon?
Do you think the teachers knew themselves what the best way for you to get into that?
I don't think they did, because they never adequately answered my answer. And I feel like if I felt confident in that answer, they would have given me A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So for them, you know, and still enjoyed the things I did. I still learned so many, many, many things. But it was like, okay, I want to make money from being artistic. How can I do this? I didn't get that answer. So I sort of almost fell into fashion design, because I remember thinking, okay, really good at drawing, enjoy making. How can I make some money? I'm going to be a fashion designer. It's literally like that. And that's where I got in from.
Did you sell your stuff yourself or did you sell it?
I wore some of my stuff and I sold as much as I could, because I wanted to be, I was at that time, I was thinking, yes, Chanel, whatever, you know, Lily's coming along. So, you know, it's like when you're young, you can just do everything, can't you? So, yeah, I feel like having a little bit more help on that networking. I wish Lesley was there to tell me to write these great letters. Just write the letter. Just find a person and write a letter to.
Some advice today now.
Yeah, I wish I had that. So, yeah.
I think so. Thank you all for sharing, because I feel like this is a really important part of the puzzle. I think how we, where we grow up and how we are spoken to as a child impacts or contributes to the decisions that we make as a young person. And when it comes to career choices, I also think that there are, you know, when you look at it from a cultural perspective, there are communities that will never, ever encourage their child to ever pursue something within the creative sector. My parents are from Pakistan. There's nobody in my family who works in the music industry. I don't know many women, Muslim women, who work in the music industry and have done so for such a long time. But I think my focus now is I'm here, and I was offered my first job at 19. So I didn't even make it to university. I was offered my first full-time job when I turned 19, and it was like, oh my God, I'm going into work, but am I ready? Do I know what I'm doing? And I think it's also important to understand that you need people or professionals around you who can guide you through that space as well. And I never had that. So now I guess my focus is really on how can we build networks, or how can we build communities of professionals who want to go into schools, who want to talk to young people, who can advise, but be very realistic of the expectations. Because people think because I have an understanding of the industry, I can get a job like this. There's one internship, Sony has one internship, and there's 350 applicants within less than 24 hours. So again, on the application form, what do I write? Who am I addressing it to? You know, if somebody asks me why do I want to work in the music industry, an answer like, I listen to music or I like music, it just isn't enough. And I think that starts in the home, but also needs to be encouraged in school, when you go to college and when you go to university. So you've got graduates who want to get into work, but have the theory aspect all down. But when it comes to experience and communication, and how am I communicating what I want to do or where I want to go, I think that's, I guess, where the disconnect is. That leads me on to my next question, which is, what is the best way to engage professionals when it comes to, I guess, specifically working around young people? And I think, Neil, I'm going to throw that to you, because as a professional myself, I've found it extremely difficult to access schools, firstly. Doesn't matter what your experience is. I think there's definitely red tape when it comes to coming into schools and working. And I think having those relationships with head teachers and staff is really important. But from your perspective as a ex-head teacher, what do you think professionals should do if they do want to work with young people? What's the best way to engage professionals from a school perspective? But also, how valuable do you think that advice is now in I guess in the COVID context, with everything that people have gone through this year? How do you think we should navigate through this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And when you said, Arfa, that you've found it really difficult to get into schools, I'm really disappointed about that. I'm saddened to think that schools won't want to embrace and welcome professionals coming in to talk to their young people, because everyone has talked about who's been so influential in their journey, and some of it was a teacher, some of it was a parent, some of it was someone else, a neighbour, whatever, and if that person could be someone that comes into school and opening the young person's eyes to thinking, no, I'm not going to follow the expected path that has been laid out for me. I'm not going to end up going to a university. When people were talking, they were sort of apologetic about, oh, I'm not academic, so I'm creative. As if creative is not as good as academic. Oh, I'm doing a BTEC in performing arts, so I'm not as good as someone that's going to do science.
But do you realise we apologise for everything, though? It's not just us here. I think we have a culture where we just apologise for things that have nothing to do with us as well.
But we do, and the schools have got such an important part to play there. It's like when it comes to announcing at the end of the year, or when the year 11s come back after they've done their GCSEs and BTECs, or they've come back after their A levels or whatever. It's the head teacher will be announcing, and here's all the ones who have achieved GCSEs, and here's the ones who have achieved their A levels. Oh, by the way, there's a couple who've done a BTEC and they've done all right as well. It's as if to say doing a BTEC or going to do an apprenticeship isn't as good as the expected path of doing the academic subjects to then go on to university. And so if schools are not going to do that for a young person, it's reliant on other people being involved in their lives who's going to give them the confidence to think, no, like Janice thought, no, I don't want to be a teacher, I don't want to be a social worker, I want to be an actor, and I want to be a writer, and I think I'm going to be blooming good at it, and she had that self-confidence, and hopefully the school hopefully part of that self-confidence that she had. It needs someone coming in and to give that self-confidence to the person, say, no, I am going to pursue this dream. I think I can do it in the music business. And yes, my parents are going to be worried because it's not the normal career path that they want me to take, but I think I'm good at it and I'm going to give it a try.
What age do you think that should start at?
I think I should start right at primary. It's not just about year 10s and 11s who are making choices for post-16. It's about getting a 7-year-old, 8-year-old who's got a real interest in creative art to schools. Someone who comes in and says, I was like you when I was 7. I was really interested in singing. I decided to pursue it, and this is what I did, and look at where I am now. And that 7, 8-year-old could think that could be me. That could be me in 10, 15 years time. So I think it's vital that professionals do come into schools, and it's vital that schools are willing and accommodating to having them in. Schools have got a real problem at the moment with money. They've got no money. So one big barrier is if anyone's coming in saying, I'll come in and do a workshop, but it's going to be £500. A school just at the moment literally haven't got any money. They've got not got the money for even the staff they've got. So if we can find ways of getting people to come in either cheaply or even better free to schools, then I can't see a school or a university.
You do that in Barnet?
Pardon?
Do you have something like that in place in Barnet?
Well, I mean, I'm really hopeful that we can use the Barnet and Culture for Youth to be able to support us in that. What we need is to be able to have schools to say, we've talked about having a a website, a list of where schools can go and say, I need to have an artist in residence, I need to have a musician in residence, and I want to have someone coming in to do a workshop for 2 weeks on drama or performing arts or whatever, and a sort of a list of who's available and how much they may well be, or the charities that could potentially fund these organisations coming in, these people coming in. So I think we've got a role to play there in what we're doing here in Barnet with the.
It's great that we're having this conversation now.
Completely, yeah.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Thank you. Lesley.
Yeah, it's I think this COVID period, it's an opportunity to, I think, and there's a COVID period, and there's our partnership in Barnet that this event is part of, and one of the remits of the partnership is to produce a strategy at the end of the project that's going to be cross-borough, and looks at just how we are going to support cultural creativity for our young people, young people long term. And it is about partnering, and it is about networks, and it's about how we work together. Because I mean, at Middlesex, we work with, I mean, just within my department, dance, music and theatre, we've got over 140 partnerships across creative industries with different functions, with different benefits for the partners. Some of them cost money, some of them don't, because it depends what the need is of both partners, but they take a long time to build trust, to develop the relationship. But I think in terms of just within our borough, there's so much that we can do by connecting a bit more. And I think that's the beauty of our project here with Barnet Culture for Youth, because this drive to support the well-being and career aspirations of young people is really essential. And Neil's right, it needs to start in primary. Barnet's really fantastic for doing things like the Barnet Dance Festival. I mean, there's something like 90 different schools showing dance work a year ago. And that is really good work. In primary schools, it's very inventive. But we need more of that. And we need more than 90 schools, because I think it's see the partnering between universities, with schools, with arts organisations in borough. I think that's that kind of joined up approach, not expecting London Borough Barnet to do it all, but to expect all of us in the creative industries community, because we are a community, to bring our own experiences.
Sorry to cut you, Lesley. Is this connected to the Creative Industries Coalition as well?
Yeah. I think that's kind of a slightly broader cross England scope too, but it all connects. There's over 100 cultural education partnerships in the country at the moment, and the importance of them was mentioned in the Durham report recently. So I mean, all these quite high level strategy conversations are happening, but it's on the ground that we actually need to make some practical change. So I think, I mean, this is why this kind of event is so important, that we can kind of start getting together and connecting to show to work out what we can do together for our children and young people. Because what
do you think you need at the university? What would be the ideal, I guess, situation for you, specifically, managing those relationships on the ground? What do you need to connect into the university? Who do you need to connect into the university?
I mean, industry professionals are fantastic, because we have to pay them, because you can't expect industry colleagues to work for nothing. You know, we have industry panels now on all of our curriculum reviews, for example. So we work out what we're going to do. We have 6-yearly reviews. We bring a panel of industry people together to tell us what the gaps are, where are the skills gaps, where are the knowledge gaps. And so we can design our curricula for students in dance, music, theatre, right across the board, because we've got a huge creative industries faculty at Middlesex. But we do that in partnership with industry, but we have to pay them. And I think it's how we use, because I was a dancer, but I now feel like I run a business in terms of a university department, because I have to manage a big budget. I have to decide how we're going to work with that budget, and where to invest. And that relationship with industry is absolutely key, because it gives credibility to what we're doing. I mean, Middlesex Poly was the most extraordinary creative environment, and we don't have that anymore. We've got something different that's about the 21st century. And those of us who were there back then, boy, did we get an experience. It's a very different landscape now, a very different employment landscape now. And so our generation, we're the ones who've got to funnel it down and make it right for the current generation, including primary school children. And I think it's those fostering relationships between higher education, primary, secondary, and the arts organizations, that I think that coming together through this kind of network, like Barnet Culture for Youth, that I think that's a really key part of getting past COVID and all that it's doing to the industry at the moment. That was the answer to all your questions in one, really.
All in one, thank you. Sorry, I was going to ask Francesca. Shanice, can I come to you, please? From a young person's perspective, what does it look like? What are the conversations that you've had? Because I saw you yawning, by the way.
Leave me out, please.
I wasn't sorry. Go on, sorry.
I'm a little bit confused, as the question was more to do with how we can engage parents and young people. So what's that?
We've already spoken about that in the first part. So I missed that question. My question now was, what's the best way to engage professionals, especially with what's going on with COVID? People aren't able to get out. Yeah. How to access the professionals, and especially in the context of working with young people. So from your perspective, doing youth work, you're obviously not going to the youth centre. There's no outreach work going on. How do you, I guess, communicate that with the young people?
It's all through.
What does that look like?
It's just all through social media. I think, so what we've been doing with Youth Realities as well, especially during the first lockdown, everything had to obviously be virtual, and young people have short attention spans. That's just what it is. Like, a lot of them can't even remember the world before the internet. So they're used to watching 15-second videos, 30-second videos, 1-minute videos. And so I feel like the best way to kind of inform them might be through videos, really, and social media. Like, everyone loves a video. It's sound, it's pictures. So yeah, I say, like, through videos.
Do you think this is where influencer partnerships really make a difference?
Pardon?
Do you think this is when, I guess this period is when influencer partnerships really make a difference?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess so. I don't know. It's hard for me to answer. I have to be honest with myself, and I have a weird relationship with social media because,
for example, that's why, please speak your truth, because I think it's important.
I have a weird relationship with it just because I'm very uncomfortable with how dependent young people are on social media. But at the same time, I understand how much of an amazing tool social media can be to reaching out to everyone, the rest of the world, everyone. So I don't know, for example, I have a goddaughter, she's 11 years old, right? She's addicted to social media at 11. But then on the other,
something specific she's using, like TikTok, or is it across the
board? You know it's TikTok. Definitely TikTok, learning TikTok dances, all of that. She's like now started off with just like TikTok and the dancing. Now it's kind of escalated to the likes, and that's where the problem lies, is wanting to be liked. Like that is where the issue is. But at the same time, she's learned amazing skills on there, and she's learned about so many other parts of the world, and she's learned how to do things, and she's learned how to make things. So I don't know, I have a weird relationship with it, but I can say from our perspective and from Youth Realities, where I work, just social media was crucial. We needed social media to reach out to young people so we can continue to make posts, so we can continue to spread awareness. And that was the only tool that we had to connect everyone, to connect other professionals with young people. And
do you think we've been having conversations specifically around mental health within
on? Can you hear me? I think it froze. Did I freeze?
Sorry, yeah, you're frozen. Sorry, what did you say?
I said
yeah, right now. I don't know what you were saying. Okay, go on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
My organisation mainly focuses on domestic violence. So it's so important as well that we can't just disappear, because a lot of young people need that support from us. So without social media, a lot of young people might have been in very dangerous predicaments without the help of us. So for me, I'm going to just say social media.
Can you give me an example, if that's okay, of my early days? Let's talk about March, April, May, where lots of young people are used to being out, so they spend a lot of time with their peers. A lot of the conversations specifically around safety are had, you know, with their peers, not necessarily with adults. Now that they're at home, do you think because they're isolated, they're talking about things that affect them, or their way of managing their feelings is to be online and seeing something that makes them laugh, or seeing something that's going to distract them, or they want to have a conversation? Because I feel like, you know, in-person interaction is just so powerful. Sometimes you can be worried about something and just seeing somebody or hugging them or just seeing their smile makes the difference. Do you think that your presence within that space has made a difference then? And how's that changed to where we are?
So obviously, like, as you just said, like, you know, nothing beats face-to-face interaction. But I don't know. I guess the team that we have is very young. I'm probably like the eldest, or one of the oldest. So I guess young people there's not such a big gap in between us and their friends. I mean, a lot of the young people that I work with are like about 10 years, maybe 10 or more years younger than me. Like I said, I'm 28. So some of them people I work is 10 years apart. Now, 10 years apart in 2020 is different to 10 years apart in the 1960s. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I still listen to the same kind of music. I still like kind of know the slang. I'm very in tune with what they're talking about. Like I'm still very aware of what's going on. And so I feel like a lot of the young people that we work with don't see, like sometimes we actually have to remind them that we're their youth workers and we're not their friends. Do you get what I'm saying? Rather than it being a thing of, oh, I don't want to talk to you, I feel like I can't reach out to you. So because the whole team is quite young, anyone knows that if you DM us through Instagram, one of us is going to answer it. And it's such a small, tight-knit team that, you know, it's kind of like a little family. So it's not like you're going to message and you're like, oh, I have no idea who's going to reply to this. You know, like you pretty much, all the young people that we work with know all the people that could pick up the line, if you know what I'm saying. So I felt like for that reason, using Instagram over the first lockdown was very helpful, because it meant that if there was a situation or if they wanted to talk to us, because we already have built those bonds, it was just for them to just reach out and be like, oh, can I specifically speak to Shanice? Obviously they have our number, they have our work numbers anyway, but you know, some people would specifically ask for specific people and then you'd say yeah, and then no one else would reply to that DM. So yeah, we found like a little system.
and it worked.
And it worked. It was good. And I felt like because our presence didn't just disappear, even if young people didn't feel like they had anything to particularly say, or if they weren't in any dangerous circumstances, or that our presence was still there. And it's like, you know, because we're also a walk-in, so young people can also just come in and drop in and just chill. So I feel like it was necessary that we needed to keep posting, and we needed to still remind them that lockdowns happened, but you know, we haven't disappeared.
Not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you. Lily. I can't hear you.
I had a fancy mute button, but it's not working, so I'm going to use a keyboard like everyone else.
I can hear
you. In response to your question, I think that also COVID also gives us some other opportunities in terms of remote working. So whereas young people have been using all this technology and all of these different apps and they live it and breathe it, the rest of us, all us olden day people, as my nephew calls me, we've had to catch up. And now we are starting to get a glimpse into the way they communicate. So now we can all use this technology to inform each other. So I think also in a way it's made it easier in a way for professionals to get involved. Because one of the barriers that I found when I'm curating events and I want to get creative practitioners in, or when I'm being asked to, is the balance of my workload to the activity of the event I'm asked to participate in. But remote working, Zoom, creating a little short film, all of these things which I would not have done before, or thought, you know, this is going to take me 2 weeks to do this, 2 weeks. It doesn't. It now takes me an hour. So now I think a lot more people are freed up. And also I think because schools are regularly doing their lessons virtually, inviting someone in virtually no longer seems like that huge thing to do. So I think that we can really grab technology the way everyone else has embraced it and really bring it into our practice and get practitioners and schools and all those other people to connect to each other in a way before, we wouldn't have done it. It'd been too easy to say, oh, next week's job. It is our job now. We do it in our working lives. So why not carry it on?
My question to you is, when you're curating an event and you're looking for someone specifically for that event, where do you find them? What do? You put a call out? Who do you contact? Who's your connect? What does that look like?
It depends what hat I have on. If I send an email from the Science Museum, it's such a big brand, it's very easy to get a response and a reply back. And we also have quite a lot of connections embedded that way. So that's a really, really easy thing to do. But when it's the Afro Retro hat on, which is a much more smaller company and limited exposure, then you have to be a lot more cleverer. So we will write emails, we will write letters, we will sort of DM people on Instagram, stalk, Google, all these things, and make sure when you write that note or that initial introduction, it's personal. So you've researched your speaker, you thought to yourself, how can I connect with you and make you connect to my project? I want to talk the words that you use to engage them.
Do you introduce yourself though? I think, and this is, I'm going to talk to you from, I guess, from my perspective as someone in the industry, is when somebody contacts me to come and get involved in an event or speaker, whether it's speaking, whether it's hosting or whatever it is, I feel like I need to connect to you as a person before I connect to the event. And often what's missing is people don't introduce themselves. I want to know who you are, who you work for, what you do. And then I want to know about why you're contacting me.
Oh, I always do it.
The disconnect, because every time I look at an email, people are like, hi, this is who I am. I want you for this. There's nothing personal in the email. It's like,
no,
okay, great, thanks.
I always do a joke. Always like, hi, my name is Lily. I'm a British Ugandan Gemini. Put some fun stuff in it. It's got to be some love at the beginning because I'm schmoozing. I am trying to win you over and I'm using the tools that I have at best, which is personality. So I always make sure I put that in. So yeah, Science Museum, super easy. It just has to have my Science Museum logo at the bottom, and then that connection is pretty much done. Afro Retro, yeah, you have to do your homework, make sure you know who you're talking to, what you want them for, and personalize that email. That is a very good tip.
Connect.
Yes, every time I am schmoozing at Science Museum, I'm also schmoozing for Afro Retro. Both of those heads go in. And because I come from the creative background and that's what I'm really passionate about, I do bring that in my work at the Science Museum. I'm always looking for how can we, because science in itself has a lot of, all STEM has a lot of stigma attached to it, and using creative industries can really help you, and creative practitioners can help you break down those barriers and give people a different perspective.
That you've done recently.
Pardon?
Can you give us an example of one of the events you've done at the Science Museum where you've used practitioners from?
Yeah, one thing that we did do, which we regularly do, is we have our adult, this is for adults, but it still feeds into the things that we do with young people as well. We do a monthly program of late night openings, and we have been working with the London School of Communication, and we work with their students to create a whole sort of install, an exhibition on art pieces, and their artwork is responding to the science themes that we have. So they will do all sorts of things, and from their creative perspective, they really produce work which speaks so well to our visitors, and they're taking it from a place, because when you sometimes have so much knowledge, it's like, how do you convey that? What do you give? And you need to come from a space where actually I have no knowledge, and I'm going to pick out the things that are interesting, and most of that stuff normally resonates with everybody else. So that's something that we do there. Another thing that I am currently working with now is I'm trying to do a collaboration with young people to get them to teach our Science Museum staff how to speak and create content that suits them. And I'm in the process of trying to source some creative practitioners. So I'm going to put it out there: a writer, an actor, musician, please come, because part of that creative process, is that I'm embedded in the museum. I know all those boring museumy words which turn off other people, and I need somebody with fresh eyes to help the young people and to help me to learn that language so we can communicate really well. So yeah.
And is that just for communication internally or externally as well?
Well, baby steps.
Questions, but they're important questions.
No. Baby steps. The first step is we want to trial it out with getting some sort of thing going that helps our science museum staff. But we want to then create this framework, this training piece that we can hand out to all of our external speakers, because we work with a lot of other researchers, scientists, and when they come with all their research, which they're passionate about, and we're glad they're passionate about, but they want to tell you everything, and you do not want to know everything. And you don't understand everything.
You don't understand it either.
Yes. So I'm hoping that this year-long work, which we can do, can really build a framework and skills and a whole bunch of resources and knowledge that we can then share, not only with just all the staff, because if you're going to be truly welcoming, every single person in that building has to speak that same language and understand where you're coming from, but also all the people that we engage with.
That sounds great.
I'm frightened.
I'll be dropping you an email.
Definitely.
Thank you, Lily. Annemarie.
So I've forgotten the first part of the question. Okay, if I go back to what we were talking about with Neil and stuff, I think a fundamental problem, isn't it, is in the country, is that we don't say that you can have a career in the arts. And we're led to believe there's a temporary thing. So people think, it's interesting on the panel, isn't it? Like the age of some of us that might be a little bit older, that are kind of living proof that you can have a career in the arts, is what I'm trying to get at. But I think within the culture, everybody kind of thinks that it's like a frivolous hobby that you're going to grow out of. So you can do it, get out of your system, and then carry on with whatever your real life is going to be. And I don't think enough is said to young people about actually you can have a career. It can be a sustained career that sees you through all your life changes, whatever those are, and the career is still there. We spoke right at the beginning, didn't we, about it's just playing, and you can play until you die. But we're not teaching that. We're teaching that it's this temporary thing, or it's a hobby, or something that's good for you for X, Y, Z. But it's also a career step for some people. And I think, from top down, I don't think particularly past governments have done very much to help that idea. And they've completely defunded all vocational training and like completely now. So that's what I'd like to see. I'd just like to see people understanding that, or we need to tell young people that you can have a career, that there's job prospects, and that job prospect might not look like the traditional trajectory. So, you go through XY stage and then you become a manager and then you do this and then do that. But these job prospects are these amazing pathways that you can't imagine before you start. And you end up doing things you couldn't imagine that you could do. But we don't say that. We just go, oh, it's really hard. But it's really hard and it's brilliant. And I think, certainly at our place at the college, I have this thing that we only, the only teachers that we have there, because it is vocational, are people that are actively working in the industry today. And I think that makes a really big difference for us, because we've got both stories going at the same time. So you can go and see a teacher in a show in the West End or on the telly, and you can also see the same teacher the next day doing their other job, which might be waiting on tables, whatever it is. So you've got a really good, realistic...
Wear both hats, you can do both.
Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? I think like during the COVID times, people seem to be rather bemused that people within our industry are doing these other jobs. But the reality is 98% of us are doing those other jobs. Yeah. I was speaking to one of my graduates the other day who said, it's really funny because now all the successful people know how I feel. And I think it's true. I think it's been like a complete leveler for everybody. I also think COVID has been very exciting for what's going on.
It's been... we're in a time where you have to put your ego and your pride aside.
Yeah,
it's good for you right now. It's not about your job title anymore. It's about, I actually need to be able to earn an income, and when it's better, I can go back to doing that rather than
Yeah, and I think, you know, that is actually for some of us that enjoy this career, that's the joy of it. It's joyful to wake up and not know what you're going to do the next day. And that's for sure, that's not true for everybody, but for a lot of us in the industry, we do quite like that. Or, you know, that you can suddenly get a phone call and you end up jetting off somewhere. That, for sure, that's not an everyday story. Yeah, but isn't it? The fact that you live in a world of possibilities, if you work in regular employment, I don't believe, you know, I don't know, I've never really done a proper job, as my dad will tell you. But if you
start, young lady.
Yeah, no, I know, he keeps telling me. But it's like, it's that thing of, if you work in a regular job, you never get that. I don't think you really get an opportunity that the phone will ring and your life has changed. Whereas in our industry, that really is what you live with every day. And that life change might be something tiny. It just might be a small, important community theatre job. It could also be the massive film break. It could be a commercial that's just made you enough to pay for a house. It's so bonkers, isn't it, what our possibilities are? And yet,
I think people don't understand that. They assume it's very limited.
Yeah, and which is why I think we should be encouraging children and youth to think that it's a career, and it's a career of possibilities.
Sorry to stop you. So we've got about 3 minutes, and I want to move on to questions. But you've just mentioned we need to encourage young people. So can you give 2 pieces of advice, quick ones, 2 things that you think you would tell your 11-year-old self?
Anything is possible, and just go for it. It's one life.
Beautiful, thank you. Shanice, quickly.
Continue to make bold choices and don't let anyone else control you because it's your life. And when they're not here anymore, you're going to feel damn silly for not doing what you really want to do.
Are you getting gangster on people, Shanice?
Pardon?
I said, are you getting gangster on people, Shanice? Lily, thank you.
I would say that, you have everything you need already. All you're going to do is learn how to use those things that you have, those tools, but you come fully equipped to be amazing.
Thank you. Neil.
I think the other things that have been said, but also just believe in yourself and you can do it, you know, and use the people around you to support you in the journey that you're going.
You've just given 3 pieces of advice, by the way.
Sorry, I always go over the
top. Lesley, your 2 pieces of advice, please.
Don't let anyone tell you can't have a career in the arts. And being driven in oneself is an asset, but being open to working with others is essential.
Thank you. Francesca, where are you?
Hello, I'm here. Trying to put my camera on so I'm not a voice.
Hi. What questions do we have? Do we have any questions?
We haven't got any questions as yet, but I've just popped in the chat for attendees to put your questions into the Q&A function. Or you can pop them into the chat if you can't find it, that's totally fine. You could also, if you wanted to say your question, you can just pop into the chat that you want to speak and I can unmute you.
One of the things, while we're waiting for questions, one of the things I wanted to say to the panelists is where can we find you online? Because I feel like if people want to follow you and see the work that you're doing or want to contact you, what's the best way to do so? Lesley, can we start with you while we wait?
I have a Middlesex Facebook page for me and dance and theatre and music. Also connected to the university. I can give that to the address and the various online platforms we work in, Instagram and Twitter mostly.
Thank you. Neil, what's the best way to find you? Or are you in hiding?
Probably a fax. I'm old school. No.
Nobody uses a fax machine anymore.
I know, that's why I said it.
Do you have one at home?
No, I don't. No, I was joking. No. Throughout, we've got a Barnet Partnership for School Improvement, BPSI website, which shows how we support schools and do professional development for teachers. So that's the best way of finding us.
Will Francesca have that information? And same for you, Lesley. Will Francesca, it would be great to send. Yeah. Is that okay for people to contact you if they do have anything specific? Is that? Yeah. Thank you, Neil. Lily, what's the best way to find you? Can't hear you. You're on mute.
I'm muting myself, sorry. On Instagram and Facebook and email. I'm going to pop it all into the chat. I'm literally typing it and pasting it in there, so you can find it all there.
Super, thank you. Shanice. I went to your Twitter and I think your Twitter is dead. You haven't used it for about 5 years. That's what it's best to ask.
So I don't really use Twitter. I know I need to get back onto that. I use Instagram, but just because I don't know if any of the young people that I work with is actually in this chat right now, I'm not going to promote my own personal Instagram.
Youth Realities, can they follow?
Yeah, Youth Realities. It's on all networks, but predominantly Instagram. So it's just at Youth Realities, and you can ask for me in my DMs, in the DMs for Youth Realities, and then I'll pop up.
Annemarie.
Okay, so I've just put it into the chat. We're at www.themta.co.uk, and we're on all social media and YouTube as the MTA Online. Pre-COVID, we were still online.
That's good. Francesca, do we have any questions?
We do, and I also would just say that we will be sending out the panelists links in a follow-up email, so you can all expect that.
Thank you.
From Tim Burley, who works with us at Arts Depot, he said, not a question, I'm just really inspired by the enthusiasm for our industry and the celebration of the portfolio creative career. I'd also be keen to hear from anybody. You talked a bit about mentors, and I wondered if there was any advice for how young people, particularly on this call, can find mentors or go about connecting with mentors.
Yeah, I actually run a peer mentoring program with Youth Realities. It's been postponed, obviously, because of COVID, but we're going to try and continue that in 2021. But if you go onto the Youth Realities website, there's loads of opportunities for young people. There's voluntary opportunities. There's programs where we actually pay young people to participate. Just go onto the website or go onto our Instagram, DM us. We're also very open. So if we have ideas and we want to bring something to life, we have the opportunity to do that, present it to the group. And if everyone's down for that, we can find funding and make it happen. So honestly, Youth Realities is a really good platform for that. So yeah.
Does anyone else have anything to add? I'm going to jump in. Oh, sorry, Annemarie.
No, I was just going to say, Shanice, that sounds amazing. I was going to say, but I think sort of ties in with what Lesley said at the beginning. I think if you want to do something, if you contact, like social media, it gives you access to so many people these days. And I think if you're not sort of mad about it and you're respectful about people's personal space, I think most people will allow you to mentor. It will want to mentor. I think, starting off by saying it's a really nice industry, and I think the creative industries generally are. Again, I think it's a myth that it's not, but I think everybody's in it together and everybody wants to help each other. So I think if you've got somewhere in particular that you want to get mentored, get in touch with them, and I bet that they would.
Thank you. Francesca, do we have time for me to just jump in and add a little something to that?
Yeah, please do. We've still got some time.
So I've found, and I guess this is across the board, I've found that a lot of young people and adults alike, we follow people who, I guess we want to see content that makes us happy or makes us feel good about ourselves. And there are people online that we should be following, especially when it comes to, and a lot of the conversations I have specifically around career progression and mentoring is who are we following and why are we following them? And so I'll give you an example from a music industry perspective. There are an awful lot of amazing professionals, women, men and women alike, doing some great things within the music industry, especially with young people. But most of the young people don't know about them because the content that they're creating or the things that they say don't often connect. So I think it's also about having a conversation with the professionals about what they're putting out. And that's a conversation that I have. But I think it's also about following people online. You don't necessarily have to contact them directly straight away. Follow their work. And if you're inspired by their work, then when you contact them, you at least have something to share. But one of the things that always comes up is when you contact me, I want to learn from you. What can you teach me? So rather than say, I want you to mentor me because I love this, this, and this, what can I learn from you? What value do you add to the work that I'm doing? And I think it's showing young people that they add value firstly, but also we're never too old to learn. So even as mentors, it's being open to learning, I think is really important. And, sometimes you don't say it, but I think it's important to have that conversation with young people, especially when there's a conversation around mentoring. That's all I want to add.
That's good. Do you think it's worth, what you put in the chat about the micro grants that we have? Because I think getting organisations into schools, then that £500 can make a real difference, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was just a point linking to what Neil was talking about earlier. And we do, as Barnet and Culture for Youth, we operate what we call an access fund, which is micro grant funds of up to £500, and they're available to schools, arts organisations and artists who work or have a connection to Barnet.
What about anyone outside of Barnet?
Because we're Barnet and Culture for Youth.
But what if people work in Barnet?
If people work in Barnet, absolutely. They work in Barnet, or if they live in Barnet, it's any connection to Barnet. And the idea of the Access Fund is to develop relationships between arts organisations and schools, and to be able to give schools the opportunity to have those arts connections. I have popped a link, but it's quite far up in the chat now, but I will send that out in the post show email that you'll receive, or you can get in touch with me as well about it. Louisa said it may be an artist from outside of Barnet but working with young people, or a school in Barnet.
And is that secondary and primary schools?
Yeah, exactly.
And is that being shared with the schools already, or is that something you're planning to do?
Yeah, so we launched it just before our launch event last year, so it is ongoing, and we originally had it's £250, but it's now £500 to hopefully engage more schools and have a bit more opportunity as well.
Fantastic. And any of those partnerships that you put together, or? Yes.
So often I will have arts organisations who are looking for a school. So for example, we have Voicebox, who are an organisation that run drama workshops around masculinity and well-being. And they applied for the Access Fund in order to run 10 workshops within schools and to be able to offer them for free. So they received the grant, and we're still looking for schools. So if there's anyone on this chat from a school who'd like to have one of those workshops as well, they're about masculinity and well-being, as I said. So it could be that it's an arts organisation applying and they are looking for a school, and as part of my role I can help make those connections with our members. We did have a question from an attendee. Erwin Smith said, this is for all panelists: how do you manage to keep a healthy work-life balance when all the industries you mentioned require you to go beyond the regular working hours?
Lesley, you're smiling. Do you want to go?
Yeah, I'm also laughing. A very, very carefully managed calendar. Because yes, we do. I mean, even at university, we don't work 9 to 5. We work from 9 a.m. through till late evenings with performances and everything normally. So it is about balance. But this is a life skill about time management. You had, in order not to burn out, because of the hours we work, and because we work intensively, because we need to work intensively. It's how our industry operates. You do have to balance. I think I learned that very early on, that when I think particularly with a freelance career, you have to understand that you have to look after yourself. You have to exercise. You have to eat well. You have to, I was a dancer, so it was and I used to smoke like a chimney, and that had to stop. There came a point where that just had to go. But it is just about time management, which is such a generic skill, but such a very, very useful one for everybody, I think.
Thank you, Lesley. Annemarie.
I am like the worst person to ask about this. I'm rubbish. I mean, and I think it's really important. I'm not just saying that as a sort of mantra. It is really important, but I do not exercise a very good work-life balance. It's like a confession, isn't it? But I don't. But I also think in my defence a little bit, I think sometimes being an artist is about a little bit of your identity as well. So it makes it a little bit harder to do that, because you don't just kind of switch off. That's my defence. I've got nothing to say. It's really important. People should work on it. I should work on it.
Thank you. Shanice, yes.
Yeah, just for anyone that is working I work part-time, that's how I balance it. I work 3 days a week work as a youth worker, and then all my other days are focused on myself. And then I always have 2 days in the weekend is for just my life, to socialize, meet up with friends and all that stuff. Mondays.
Are you still doing that during COVID?
Pardon?
Are you still doing meeting up through COVID?
Oh, no, I'm just talking about in general, over COVID. Are we talking about just COVID then?
No, I'm just asking. You said I'm meeting up with my friends. Are you still meeting up?
No, I'm not still meeting up with anyone. But I meant in general, because I graduated 5 years ago. So in general, Monday and Tuesdays will be focused on myself. Wednesday, Thursday and Fridays work, and then Saturday and Sunday for social life. So just to kind of break it up. So Monday and Tuesday, I will not do anything work related. And on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, when I finish work, I won't do any personal stuff. I'm just work and then home, and it's my time.
That's a good way to be. Sometimes it's just not possible, but I think it's great that you plan your week out.
I'm strict to myself. Don't get it twisted. Maybe I might do my own personal work on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday when I do work, but I won't do any work on my own personal days because I just need some time.
That's really good. Thank you. Lily?
So I work Monday to Fridays at the Science Museum, and then the rest of the time is for Afro Retro and my second company, Afri Collab. So diaries are incredibly important, and being realistic in what you can and can't achieve. I think the biggest challenge is actually turning down projects, because there's so many great things that will catch your eye, and you will bounce off people, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, we can do that, we can change the world, revolution. But it's more of a case of, okay, I can do that, but I won't sleep for maybe 6 months. So it's really also being realistic in your goals and what you can and can't achieve, and prioritizing what is important, what needs to be done, and then putting the other bits in a box for when it's super quiet.
Till later.
Yeah.
Thank you. Neil?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's the creative art that actually gives me a work-life balance. And I think someone mentioned about just being able to switch off. And I think just if you've had a heavy day at work, it's just being able to do something involved in creative arts. And with me, it's music. So I mentioned that I started playing the guitar when I was at secondary school. So an interesting story, Arfa, when I became a head teacher, I took my guitar along to a head teacher's residential conference in Brighton. And then some other head teachers said, oh, I play the guitar as well. And then we found someone who plays the drums. So we started a band of head teachers that we called ourselves Squawking Heads, after Talking Heads, and we're still going. We're still going as a band. So and even during when the post lockdown, we were rehearsing outdoors. So we were rehearsing at socially distanced outdoors, 5 of us rehearsing. And so that's the thing that just gives me a work-life balance, just being able to completely switch off from work, so you haven't got your worries there and you just have to focus on something else. And so music's the thing that does it for me.
It makes. I think it's also something that we definitely need to encourage is getting some air, fresh air, and nature. And I think most people will have a park near them, but I think it's finding the right time to go when it's not full of other people.
I just wanted to make a point of what Annemarie said earlier about saying that you can have a career in the arts. And I think we've got a particular challenge now, because you see so much on the media about the fact that people, theatres and actors are all struggling, and so that messages that children in schools are getting of actually it's a risky business to go into the arts now because of COVID. I think even more so that we need to make sure that they're following those dreams and realising they can do it.
Thank you, Neil. Yes, Annemarie.
I just say on that, sorry, thanks Neil for bringing that up, that I think the arts has evolved, and it shows how brilliant the arts are, because everybody's being creative. We all moved on to Zoom really quickly. We've got Zoom performances now, we've got stream performances, we've got digital theatre has been completely reborn. I think for those people who might be thinking about doing the arts and are being put off because of COVID and what they're reading about, for sure, traditional theatre is struggling right now and it's closed. It's going to be open again next year, but I understand that's scary. But there's also loads of new things being created and innovated. And I think in the long term, actually, for as terrible as this period has been for our industry, I think in the long term, it's going to really progress our industry and knock us into the 21st century. And we've needed to go there for quite a while. So I think actually there's going to be more opportunities for people that want a career in the arts.
Thank you. Francesca, are we are we done with time, or does anyone have anything final to add?
Yes, I'm keen that we finish as close to 7 in terms of talking about well-being and making sure that we're strict with ourselves. But a big thank you to all of you, and to Arfa especially. It's been really fantastic to hear from all of you. And thank you for giving up your time on a Wednesday evening.
Thank you, Francesca. Thank you, guys. And hopefully we'll reconnect very soon.
Yes, absolutely.
I hope so.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much.
So long. Good to see everyone.